Hello everyone, back tuning in to today's video, doing JMA Friday today, having a look at the weather coming month with the Japanese and CFS V2 model. So we've had the warm weather over the past few days, of course. It's been pretty hot, particularly at last weekend and into the start of this week. It's turning cooler now. We'll see where things are trending over the rest of May and into June. It's going to take us to the middle part of June. With this update, so it'll be interesting to see what the models are expecting for the coming month. Before you get on with that, just say about the ads. There's links to articles on all of the pages. Have a browse through widgets and click through the links if there's any articles that you're interested in. Thanks very much for doing that. This video adds to most of the pages and they open up the content when you watch the close back up again. It does help to pay for GazWeatherVids.com. Thanks very much for getting involved. And thanks for doing that. So we'll start off with the 500 millibar heights broken down into weekly periods from the JMA, and then have a look at the CFS V2. So this is the first weekly period. This will be taking us from today, the 13th of May, through to the 20th. And blue extrapolates to low pressure, yellow, orange, red extrapolates to high pressure. So for the coming week, what we find is that we've got a trough of low pressure out to the east, particularly centred around Scandinavia and into eastern parts of Europe. And then we've got this ridge out to the west. The jet stream does something like that. So it's a bit of a complicated one, but it is a cooler week coming up here. Fair amount of dry weather in the west, most of the conditions to the east of the UK, and eventually perhaps turning a bit more unsettled as this ridge starts to get broken down and we begin to revert back to more of a westerly flow. That could be later on into next week. Week 2, which takes us from the 20th through the 27th of May, so just about up to the bank holiday weekend, looking like this. A ridge down to the south with low pressure or below average heights up to the north. So this reverts us to more of a westerly flow with jet stream coming through the country a bit like that. So everything reverting back to the west there with the driest conditions likely in the south and most unsettled conditions up to the north, but probably all places getting some bands of rain coming through. With the flow off the Atlantic, it won't be desperately cold. And then week 3 and week 4, from the 27th of May through to the 10th of June, looks like this. A ridge centering around Iceland and going down in towards the central part of the Atlantic. A trough is centered across central parts of Europe, perhaps rather unusually. The jet stream doing something like that. So it's back to the sort of pattern we've got at the moment, really. High pressure to the west, low pressure to the east. Probably implies that most unsettled conditions are likely to the east of the country, but I think overall it's generally fairly dry there. We are blocking off the Atlantic with this ridge, but I wouldn't expect temperatures to be particularly exciting. In fact, they could be quite cool there as we're going through into the start of June. So that's the Northern Hemisphere view, looking down at the UK from the pole. Let's have a look at the mid-latitude view next, and tropics. So the British Isles on this chart is just here. Again, these are 500 millibar heights broken down into week periods. So for the first week, we know that we've got the ridge out to the west of the country, and the trough is over to the east and the northeast. What that means for temperatures for the coming week is that it's generally a bit cooler than average in those blue colours there, so temperatures coming out below average for the coming week, 13th through to 20th of May. Precipitation though, that looks quite good. That comes out generally drier than average, so coolish and dry sums it up really for the next week. That probably turns more unsettled though towards the middle and latter stages of next week. Excuse me. We go through to week 2, which takes us from the 20th through the 27th of May. This one turns everything more westerly again. So we've got this ridge down to the south of the country around Spain and the Bay of Biscay. You can't really see it, but there's low pressure to the north of Scotland, and the jet streams running through the country, almost directly through the country really, rather like that. The temperature anomaly therefore lifts up down in the south, close to that ridge of high pressure across France. We see the temperatures recovering to little bit above average. Above the north, still looking rather on the cool side. And precipitation, that shows a north-south split as well. So England and Wales generally a bit drier than average. Scotland and Northern Ireland generally a bit wetter than average. And then the third and fourth weeks looking like this. So we have the ridge out to the west of the country, and it does extend up towards Iceland as well, which places a trough to the east of the country, and the flow more or less going directly into the north, certainly into the northwest, possibly even into the north or northeast. So I'd expect temperatures to be dropping there at the end of May and into the start of June. That's what the model is predicting, generally going cooler than average there for the start of June. And the precipitation, that is again looking generally drier than average. So there's no sign of anything desperately wet coming up over next month. Just temperatures aren't really all that exciting. So maybe we've had the warmest temperatures for the time being over the past few days, actually. It'd be interesting to see how that works out. But certainly the model not predicting anything really going on with temperatures, generally average to cool. Precipitation is a bit drier. Have a look at CFS V2 then, and again these are 500 millibar heights broken down into weekly periods. The first week takes us from the 13th through to the 19th of May. Same idea as the JMA, red extrapolates high pressure, green, blue extrapolates to low pressure. So the coming week again places this ridge out to the west of the country, and there's a trough to the east and the northeast. So the flow and the jet stream goes rather like that. We're not under the trough. The most of the conditions are away in central parts of Europe, but it's generally a bit cool, I think, that, and probably a lot of dry weather with this ridge out in the Atlantic, again, blocking off those rain-bearing weather systems. So I wouldn't think it's going to be all that wet, but temperatures probably nothing to write home about. Week 2, going from the 20th through to the 26th of May, very good agreement with the JMA here in that we're reverting back to a westerly through this week. So we've got the ridge down to the south of the country around France and Spain. The low pressure is up to the northwest of Scotland. The jet stream's coming through the country. So probably bring bands of rain, particularly to the north and west of the country, whilst the south and east gets the driest weather. With the flow reverting back to the west, temperatures probably get a bit of a boost. Not that exciting, but probably lifting up with the temperatures there through the final week of May. Week 3, from the 27th of May through to the 2nd of June, shows the ridge again centred down south. So this is a little bit different now to what the JMA is doing. This still has the ridge down to the south and southwest of the country and the low pressure to the south of Greenland. So again, the jet stream's coming through like that. It's still Atlantic based, and with this ridge extending up from the Azores, I think there's probably a lot of dry weather and possibly fairly warm weather as well down to the south of the country. So a little bit different there compared to the compared to JMA. And that continues to week 4 as well, the 3rd through to the 9th of June. We're building the ridge up from the Azores. So this looks quite good actually. It's extending up to Scandinavia as well. That trough of low pressure around Greenland and Iceland very much penned in up there. The jet stream's going north. This looks like a real burst of summer actually as we're going into the start of June. That high pressure from the Azores is building to the high pressure over Scandinavia. They're forming a large ridge system there. That could bring a lot of very warm and dry weather, I think, as we're going into the start of June. So that is a difference to the JMA. The JMA wants to place the high pressure to the west and bring a trough again into Scandinavia and Central Europe, which turns the winds into a cool northerly. CFS V2 not going for that. Instead, it's going for a proper burst of summer. Having a look at the temperature anomalies from the CFS V2 for the coming month. The first week period, the 13th to 19th, coming out a bit cooler than average. But week 2, the 20th to 26th of May, shows temperatures improving. They go a bit above average, especially in the south. Week 3, going from the 27th of May through to 2nd of June, that one looks warmer than average. And then week 4, which I thought looked quite good because it shows the ridge extending in from the Azores and going up to Scandinavia as well. But the temperatures don't look all that exciting, actually. They're just back to around average. Not quite sure why that would be, other than maybe we're bringing in a bit of an easterly as the Azores and Scandinavian highs ridge together, possibly turns the winds into the east and the northeast. The precipitation anomaly for the next month, so the week 1 comes out drier than average. Week 2, this is when we go back into westerly, goes a bit wetter than average. So although temperatures get a boost from the 20th to 26th of May, temperatures lift up, but we do bring in more bands of rain off the Atlantic. Week 3, we lose the signal quite a bit. It just shows average rainfall. And that continues into week 4 as well, the 3rd to the 9th of June. That looks generally around average with rainfall. I think essentially the model just loses the signal for precipitation in those week 3 and week 4 time frames. And I would have thought with the ridge building up from the Azores through the early part of June, it's likely to be, I certainly think it's likely to be warmer than this model is showing. I think it's probably likely to be drier than average as well. So CFS V2 looking quite good, really. After we get this week's cooler weather out of the way, the rest of it is looking not too bad. Certainly with temperatures, I think they improve as we get through into June, as that ridge builds up from the Azores. In terms of the JMA, though, that one looks more mixed. It is generally fairly dry for the coming month, but those temperatures are rather modest, to say the least, and it all hinges on the discrepancy, really, between the pattern that the two models are going for. JMA wants to place a ridge to the west of us and bring down a northerly as we get into June, whereas the CFS V2 wants to build up the Azores high and set us up for, I will think, quite a summery spell. So wait and see how that pans out. That's how the two models are trending today. Essentially for May, the rest of it is looking reasonably dry, with temperatures not doing much to get excited about. That's the idea for May, and then we diverge into June. Tomorrow we'll have a look at CFS V2 for the next 6 months. It'll be CFS 6 months look ahead, and we'll also be doing weekend forecast, so come back for that tomorrow. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.